Greetings. We are the Arcturian Council of 12. We are excited to speak with you at this moment of your time. This is part 1 of a 2-part message. The first part, we will explain to you how you can reach our consciousness for communication or any other consciousness for communication. The second part, we will explain how to use prayer. There have been many analogies as to how frequencies work. We will utilize the analogy of a radio, as we can see this holds the most similar vibrations to the quantum allowances of the mechanisms of its use. Think of the radio dials, where you have to turn the knob and slowly tune in to what sounds like to you to be the clearest signal. Most of you are used to the digital radio frequencies, where it automatically puts you on the exact frequency. But it does not work like that. Prior to your digital and preset buttons, you had to use a dial. You had to slowly turn it, going back and forth and trying to find where it sounded best for your ears. Trying to find the point where you received the least amount of static included in the frequency. And then, depending upon where you were located, sometimes the signal would not be as strong and you would have to readjust. This is similar to how you can communicate to consciousness energies. How does our consciousness separate out from the oneness? Think of a vast ocean. All of these waves slowly rocking together. When you decide you want to connect with a certain consciousness, a part of the water starts to rise up and take form. It does not separate from the ocean. It just rises up to become more distinctive. Much like how a large wave is not separate from the ocean, it just is sitting at a different level, but still connected. So as the consciousness that you want to connect to has raised itself above the ocean level, but still connected to it, this distinctive energy still has an infinite frequency to it. At this point, you must then start filtering the aspects you want to connect with even more. Because, remember, the oneness includes everything. Think of what we mean by everything. We do not see things the way you do in terms of right or wrong. Because from our dimensional expression, there is no right or wrong. But if you are connecting with an understanding of right or wrong, then you need to be specific about what aspects you want to connect to. You need to take your radio knob and fine-tune it very, very carefully. There are also other frequencies that can look very similar, that can pretend to be the one you are looking for, but in fact are mimicking the frequency and providing much static that will interfere with the transmissions that you would be receiving. With that analogy complete, let us now explain what we mean. If you are choosing to receive information from pure Christed consciousness of pure source light, then you must connect to us, or to whomever you want to connect to who vibrates at that same frequency, with the same level of frequency. You must be in a state of blissed love first. That is how you can summon the frequency of consciousness to connect to you. At that point, you must determine if the consciousness you have connected to is a pure Christed source light consciousness or a mimic. Let it be known that the mimics are very convincing. This is where you must believe and trust in your intuition. You will be able to feel if something is off, but it is such a slight feeling that most people ignore it. This is something that comes with practice, much practice. The more you practice this connection technique, the stronger your intuition will become. Also, as you develop your connection, you will intuitively create your own methods of vetting out very quickly the pure energies from the mimics. For those beginning this connection, you will connect to mimics. It is impossible for anyone to do anything perfectly for the first several times. We recommend not to develop a bond with anything that you connect to for quite some time, because you need to develop your intuition first. Only after you have done much vetting of the consciousness will you be able to then start to create a trust with that energy. Again, this is not a fast process. It needs to be done slowly and carefully to ensure you develop your connection intuition with minimal interference from the mimic energy. We would encourage you to connect to a consciousness that you feel you already have a strong love bond with. It might be Archangel Michael. Some of you use the name Michael. It might be with Yeshua. Some of you use the name Jesus. Or it might be with some other Christed consciousness. But remember, just because you connect to these energies does not mean that it is them. It might be the mimic. So you will need to vet out the connection many times until you have fine-tuned your own connection to ensure you are tapping into the pure Christed consciousness. Our recommendation for vetting the consciousness that you have connected to is as follows. Ask them with your heart if they are connecting to you from the frequency of pure Christed diamond white light of source. If there is even a moment of hesitation, or if they say anything other than an immediate yes that you can feel with great love, then it is our recommendation that you then thank them for connecting with you, but ask them to leave. We would then disconnect our request for connection and then regroup by analyzing what was it about your frequency that would bring a mimic into your connection stream. If you did get a yes response, we would then connect even more strongly to our heart center until you are almost in tears with love, and ask the consciousness again if they are connecting to you in pure Christed diamond white love consciousness from the pure source love and light. Again, if there is even a moment of hesitation in their response, or if they say anything other than an immediate yes that you can feel with their love, then we recommend you thank them for their connection, but ask them to depart, and then we would again disconnect from the connection and analyze what it was about your frequency that would bring a mimic into your consciousness stream. If you have received 2 yes responses thus far, we would ask one further time. Each of their responses should feel like the most beautiful and unconditional love that you have ever felt in your physical life experiences. At this point, you will probably be close to tears, or with the strongest and largest smile on your face, with the love vibration that you have never felt before. If you are not feeling the love, so to speak, then we would again thank them for connecting with you, but ask them to leave. We would recommend to analyze your frequency, because if you are not feeling the love, then you are connecting with your ego and not your heart. And further self-work would be recommended to recognize the ego's involvement in your life choices prior to reconnecting to consciousness. Once you have vetted the consciousness you have connected to, learn to recognize how you feel when you are connected to them. That is the fine-tuning we are referring to. The mimics can only crash your party when your vibration is slightly off. We would continue to ask the questions each time you connect to them until your fine-tuning has become so exact that you can feel the connection even prior to entering a state of meditation, because you carry that specific frequency within you at all times. It is our recommendation to not seek out what other people think about when connecting to a specific consciousness. You are unique. Each of you are a magnificent snowflake. Energy does not have a specific form. Each of you have your own set of neurocircuitry that will interpret the energetic vibration frequencies differently. It is like asking someone to describe the color blue. Everyone will find a different way to describe the color. After you have connected to the pure, Christed, diamond white light consciousness, you then have different options as to how you want to transmit the information into your dimension, if you so choose. This is called channeling. There are two primary methods used by most channelers. The first method is a full trance style of interaction. If you, as the human, want to allow a full body communication, then you would allow your consciousness to step back and then allow the Christed consciousness to step forward, thus allowing the trusted consciousness the ability to communicate completely, almost allowing a walk-in type of interaction. It has been witnessed by humans that the communicating energy can alter the style of speech, the visual representation, and also the vocabulary of the human. The second method is a telepathic style of interaction. If you, as the human, want to maintain your consciousness but allow the Christed consciousness to provide you with a subtle communication, then you allow a style of telepathic communication whereby you find the words in your own vocabulary that vibrationally match the feeling of the telepathic communication. You will probably not hear distinctive words in your mind, but instead be provided with a thought with feeling, much like having to describe a memory. After deciding what style of interaction you feel most comfortable using, you then choose how to deliver the information in your physical environment. The two most common methods are automatic writing, either with stationery or with a keyboard, and verbal communication. We recommend utilizing both methods of information delivery, as each method expands your brainwave activity and promotes your mental and spiritual growth. The more diverse your communication methods, the easier time you will have in communicating with the spiritual dimensional realms. Learning to connect to consciousness is a very important method of learning about your own frequency. It is the next step in your ascension process. By learning how to recognize and handle your own frequency alterations, you will be able to take full control of your behaviors, which will bring you that much closer to fully embodying the master that you are. We will deliver the second part of our transmission in our next session with our channel. We leave you now in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator, Adonai.